Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1986 horror comedy musical Little Shop of Horrors. Now, this is honestly one of my favorite films. It's one of my favorite musicals, and it's one of my favorite films from the year 1986. And that's saying a lot because that's a really good year for movies. And it's also a film that has a special extra significance for me personally, not just because I have nostalgia for it due to watching it all the time on VHS and DVD and whenever it was on television, but also because I sang songs from the musical that this film is based on. I sang the duet "Suddenly See More" with another girl in my choir, and I also sang "Skid Row" with my choir in high school. So that gives it an extra bit of resonance for me personally, and I had a blast revisiting this film. Like, I was singing along to all the songs. I was, getting, emotional at the emotional, moments. I was cheering, Rick Moranis on in the finale when he gets to, uh, be the hero at the end, and was enjoying and just really loving the practical effects by Lyle Conway and company, and it was just a real treat to watch this again, after all these years. It just reminded me of just how much I loved this film, like, why I used to watch this movie all the time. And, before I, get around to sharing even more of my thoughts on this film, I would like to give a special shout out to Brian for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you'd like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. Link to both is in the video description down below, and I will try to get to your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, Little Shop of Horrors is directed by Frank Oz, and I think this is his best film. This is his best work as a director. He's done some other stuff that I like, Muppets Take Manhattan. He also directed What About Bob? He co-directed The Dark Crystal, if I remember correctly. And he's done some other movies that I also don't mind. But his direction in this is an absolutely incredible feat because he combines his experience of working with puppets with all the Muppet projects and with Jim Henson, as well as his experience with doing musicals like Muppets Take Manhattan, and creates something that is truly tremendous. And he utilizes what was at the time the largest budget for any Warner Brothers movie, which was like $25 million. And in 1986, $25 million was a lot of money. And he utilizes that budget in ways that are genuinely astonishing. The sets that they built in Pinewood to recreate Skid Row and the flower shop and the whole stage set for the stage play are nothing short of stupendous. And just the way that he shoots them is just so good. It just has this very mesmerizing quality to it. And I just feel that the way that he shoots Audrey II in particular is amazing because he just does such a great job bringing this puppet to life in a fashion that makes it just seem like it's a real plant from outer space that they just somehow found a way to bring to earth and make it the star of the movie and works so well with his cast and got so many good performances out of them and did a great job with the overall tone of the movie, which is very weird but also whimsical and a bit wacky, and just did a really good job consistently providing that kind of visual tone throughout the movie. And when it comes to scenes that really needed to be uh, bigger, that needed to be grander in terms of their emotion or in terms of the action or or the overall craziness. He just absolutely brought it and then some. Like he brought his A+ game when it comes to those particular moments. And he was just so good at thinking on his feet and just doing things that a lot of directors honestly probably wouldn't even thought about. For instance, there's a shot that ends the Somewhere That's Green song, a sequence. And it's this massive pull-out shot. This pull-out shot to show this wide shot of the entire set, or at least most of it. And Frank Oz, realizing that the crane that he was utilizing to get that shot wasn't going back far enough, he used 2 cranes to get that shot. That kind of ingenuity is just really impressive to me. And that's really showcased throughout this entire film. And you get some really good, great usage of pans and zooms and camera angles and all the kind of stuff that you expect from a director working on a project of this size and this caliber. And I just cannot sing his praises enough. I just think he did a amazing job directing this movie. And I do feel that he's done some other work that's definitely noteworthy, but nothing to the level of what he did here with Little Shop of Horrors. And the screenplay by Howard Ashman, I also think is really good. Really strong script because of the fact that Howard Ashman was the playwright of the original stage play. That really enables things to transition rather seamlessly to the big screen from the stage. There are a couple things, actually, there's a few things that are different from the film script versus the stage play. For one, there are a couple musical numbers that were not in the stage play. Mean Green Mother from Outer Space. I think the other one is I just got to look it up here. I think it's Some Fun Now. Yeah, I don't think that one was actually in the musical. And there were some other musical numbers that were kind of retooled a little bit for their usage in the film. And the way that the writer does it is just it's just so well done. It doesn't even seem like it's that difficult of a transition from stage to screen. It just seems seamless. And there are new additions that I think honestly are even better than some of the stuff that was actually in the stage play. Mean Green Mother from Outer Space, for instance. And in the original intended version of the movie, there is the finale, Don't Feed the Plants. But that isn't in the theatrical cut. So that's the other difference, as well as like the Somewhere That's Green reprise, which is featured in the original intended ending. So there are differences with the song numbers. There's also differences when it comes to some of the characters, and I'll get to that later. But a lot of the core elements and core story beats are identical, are pretty much the same when it comes to the stage play versus the film. You have the opening with the Little Shop of Horrors song, which is very catchy and is a really good bop. But when you think about it, you're like, well, that's honestly pretty sinister when you actually listen to the lyrics. And it just does such a great job, like setting you up for what is going to be one ball of a movie. Just a really, really fun blast. And then introduces the characters, in my opinion, a really strong fashion with Seymour and Audrey and Mr. Mushnick, who owns the Mushnick's flower shop. Showcases that the flower shop is not doing well and it's struggling. And Mushnick is even thinking about closing the doors entirely. And that's what leads to the Skid Row song because now Seymour and Audrey, they're worried about losing their job and winding up on Skid Row with all these other people. And the way that the musical numbers are placed into this film is just so well done. There's a lot of musicals, a lot of film musicals, where the musical numbers can feel a little out of place or forced. It's not the case here at all. Like they just feel like they're perfectly placed into any given scene when they do appear. And you have Skid Row, and that's just a great song to establish the dire straits that these characters are in. And then Seymour, due to having this weird plant and due to having this hobby of collecting weird plants, he bought this weird plant from a shop, and it's a plant that literally appeared out of thin air. But he was like, "Hey, it's a weird plant. I'm looking for weird plants. How much do you want for it?" The shopkeeper was like, "Hey, that'll be like $2.99 or $1.99. Then here you go. Here's the plant." And he takes the plant and he takes it back to the flower shop. And that plant is what ultimately revitalizes the business at the flower shop. He puts the plant out in the window. People start coming in, inquiring about this weird and interesting plant. And then they start buying all these flower arrangements and buying all these flowers. And Mushnick is really happy about this, but the plant wilts after the first day of success, renewed success at the flower shop. So Mr. Mushnick is like, "Hey, Seymour, you got to get that plant right." And that's where you get the song "Grow for Me." And Seymour realizes that the plant wants blood. It doesn't want plant food. It doesn't want water. It wants blood. And so he starts feeding the plant blood from his own body, from his fingertips. The plant gets bigger, grows out of its coffee can, and it's growing, getting bigger, leads to Seymour becoming this massive, well, not really massive. He just becomes a local celebrity at this point. And he has appearances on the local radio show, Wink Wilkinson's Weird World, which is where you have John Candy's cameo as the host of the show. And he uses his time on that show to promote the flower shop. And the entire time he's pining for his coworker Audrey. He has a crush on her. He's always wanted to be with her, but he's meek, he's shy, doesn't know how to tell her how he feels, and he's afraid of rejection. So he doesn't really follow through with things. But he really does care about her. He really does love her. And he sees her getting abused and getting treated poorly by her boyfriend, who is this sadistic dentist named Orrin, played by Steve Martin, in a really wild offbeat bit of casting that honestly works very well. And you have the dentist song where Oren is singing about why he became a dentist because he's a sadist and dentistry enables him to be a sadistic uh, loon and get paid for it. So that is such a hilarious song. I love that song, and I love Steve Martin's way that he sings it, and just that entire sequence is just so funny. It's one of the funniest moments in the movie. Is when Steve Martin is singing the dentist song. So you establish that this Orange Gravello guy is a total nutbag, and he treats Audrey poorly. And at this point, Audrey II, the plant, has now gotten pretty significantly large. And now it's starting to talk to Seymour, and it's hungry. And so it's, asking Seymour to feed it. Feed me. Feed me, Seymour. And Seymour, he's like, I don't have any blood left. And the plant is like, give me bodies. And I need bodies. And of course Seymour's like, I don't know if I can do that. And then the plant manipulates him, and gets him to essentially agree to uh, get the plant a body so it can feed, uh, because it manipulates him by manipulating his desires. Like, hey, if you feed me, I'll get you everything you want. I'll get you Audrey. And what better target than her boyfriend? He's a jerk. He treats her poorly. Would anyone miss him? Probably not. Plus, you take him out, you get the girl. And so he agrees, and the next day he goes to the dentist office to try to kill the dentist. And that's where you have the other hilarious scene with Bill Murray, where he plays this sadomasochistic dental patient who is just enjoying the pain that Oren is inflicting upon him. So it leads to a moment where even the psycho dentist is like, "Get out, get out of here." He was like, that guy was crazy. Uh, and his next patient is Seymour, but Seymour is gonna shoot him, but he doesn't follow through with it. And instead, the dentist kills himself with an overdose of laughing gas. Seymour then takes the body back to the flower shop, cuts it up, feeds it to the plant. Uh, his boss, Mr. Mushnick, sees him cutting up the body late one night. And after all of that, though, Seymour winds up having a good moment. He has a good day the next day after he cut up the dentist's body and fed him to the plant, because now Audrey is free from being tied to the sadistic dentist as her boyfriend. And that's when both Seymour and Audrey expressed their love for one another. And prior to all of this, uh, Audrey expressed her love for Seymour when she was sitting there alone in her apartment in the Somewhere That's Green sequence, which I think is genuinely iconic. And you then, after all of this, it leads to Mr. Mushnick. He knows what Seymour did, and so he tries to blackmail him, even holds him at gunpoint later that night, trying to get him to give away the secrets of making the plant so big and keeping the plant healthy so he can make all this fame and fortune. And is basically telling Seymour, you give me that information and you can go on the lam, and you don't have to go to jail. But if you don't, I'm going to take you in. And so he's holding him at gunpoint, and Seymour is walking closer and closer to him. He ultimately then gets eaten by the plant, Mr. Mushnick. Mr. Mushnick gets eaten by the plant. And after all of this, Seymour becomes this massive celebrity. He becomes this huge celebrity, household name. He and the plant are on multiple magazine covers. He's got his own TV show that's in the works. And he can't handle that. It's too much for him. He doesn't like the pressure. He feels boxed in because of all this tension. And he wants to run away. And he decides to come up with this plan to marry Audrey and run away and let the plant die and just completely just get away from all of this. Get away from this craziness and have a normal life and live happily ever after with the love of his life and Audrey. And she says yes, and he goes back to the flower shop that night to try to get everything ready for the wedding, but the plant figures things out and doesn't want him to leave. And Actually, there's a scene before that where the plant actually tricks Audrey to come over, and she comes over to the flower shop, sees the plant talk. Plant then tries to eat her. Then Seymour comes in and saves her from the plant. And this is where things are split with the theatrical version versus the director's cut. Where in the theatrical version, the version that I personally prefer, and it's not just because it's the version I grew up with, and I'll expand upon that further, trust me. In the theatrical version, Audrey survives. She survives, she's not really that hurt, just a little cut up from the plant. And the finale is Seymour getting into this battle with the plant while the plant is doing the musical number Mean Green Mother from Outer Space, where it's explaining that it's from outer space and it's intent on world domination. And so Seymour, he takes it upon himself to stop the plant, and it doesn't seem like it's going to work out because the plant easily is able to overpower him because it breaks out of the pot and now it's loose. It's got all these other little versions of Audrey II that are all over it on its vines. They're also singing along to the song, and the plant even tears down the building, the flower shop, and causes the ceiling to cave in. But Seymour survives the entire collapse of the flower shop, and there is a bunch of wires that are just laying there that are broken and exposed. And so he grabs the wires and then electrocutes the plant. And I love the moment where Audrey 2 goes, "Oh shit," and then explodes. And Seymour, he gets to be the hero. He gets to blow the plant up, save the world, and get the girl, which I like that. That's a satisfying conclusion for sure. And there's even a moment prior to that, like where he stands up for his convictions, where there's this guy who shows up and tries to offer him all of his money to sell Audrey 2 all across the globe. And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm here to stop Audrey. I'm not here to do any of that. Get away from me. And that's where you have James Belushi in a fun little cameo. And I like that there's an arc for Seymour. Yeah, he gets the girl in the end, but he also develops more of a backbone. He develops more strong convictions. He actually realizes the error of his ways. He feels remorse for what he did. And if you think about it, in the theatrical version of the movie, the way that the tone is set up and the way that the character of Seymour is written in particular, the ending that they went with the reshoots, because of the disastrous reception of the original intended ending, which was the darker ending, which was uh, exactly how the stage play ended, it just works better. Because yeah, you still get the little cheeky thing at the end with the Audrey plant smiling, so it's like, yeah, it's not quite over yet, but it's a happy ending. You get to Audrey and Seymour, they get together, they get that house with the white picket fence and the green freshly cut lawn, and they get to have that fairy tale ending. And it feels justified and it feels earned because of everything that the two characters went through, and it's satisfying to see the plant get blown up too in a pretty epic, cool fashion. It's just a really nice, sweet, charming way to end what was a very charming, tongue-in-cheek, kind of film. Now, the original intended version of the movie, it ends completely differently. And this is where I personally have a bit of a divide with fans of this film. because there's a lot of people who are fans of this movie who think the director's cut is massively superior than the theatrical version because of the darker ending. I didn't really get into the play until after I saw this film multiple times, and I do like the play. I enjoy the play. I like the play quite a bit. But the darker ending works in the play for reasons that make it not work in the film version. So in the theatrical version, the tone is pretty consistent. There's some dark stuff, but it's not anything that dark, and it's mostly lighthearted. And Seymour, he's not really interpreted or showcased as a character who is that selfish, who is really a guy who was fully aware of what he was doing and was actively involved in the death of the people that he fed to the plant. You could interpret it as the plant manipulating him to do what he did, or they wound up dying due to circumstances that had nothing to do with Seymour. And Seymour was written in a much more sympathetic fashion, and you felt for him and you connected with him as a sympathetic figure. And that led to him having this moment of triumph in the end where he defeated the plant and got the girl, which was so satisfying. Now, the original intended ending of the movie that Frank Oz originally shot and was originally used for the test screenings for the film, it's like the stage play. And it's the dark ending where Audrey dies and you have a moment where after Audrey's death, Seymour gets up on a roof and tries to kill himself. He eventually doesn't go through with it, and then he winds up getting eaten by the plant anyway, and then the plants take over, and you get the "Don't Feed the Plants" song. And there was a guy who tried to get him to sign a deal similar to the James Belushi character in the theatrical version, who was there to try to get Seymour to sign this deal for wide distribution of the plant. And Seymour was like, "No, I'm not going to do that." But the guy's like, "It doesn't matter. The plant's public domain. We're going to do it anyway." And then you get this montage, and all these people are buying all these plants all across the globe in the United States. And then the plants eat New York. And it's some really great practical effects by Lau Conway and company. With the scenes where the plants are eating New York is genuinely gobsmacking. It's some great effects. But that ending does not fit with the tone that the film was presenting up until that point. And it doesn't work when it comes to the fate for Seymour or for Audrey, because Seymour in particular in the play, he's much more openly selfish. He's much more openly involved in the direct deaths of the dentist and his boss. In the play, there's even a whole musical number where he's talking about, should I let the guy overdose on the gas or should I save him? And then he ultimately decides not to. In the theatrical adaptation of the play, Seymour, he's not even the one that even kills the guy. He kills himself. He overdoses on the gas because he turns the knob and it breaks off. And because of the contraption that he's wearing, there's nothing that Seymour could do to save him. And then with Mr. Mushnick is holding him at gunpoint. He's got the plant who's also manipulating him at the same time. He's just kind of stuck in a really bad spot, and the plant just decides to eat the guy. He doesn't trip him, he doesn't push him in there. In the stage play, Seymour actually does something to directly lead to Mr. Mushnick getting eaten by the plant. He tricks him into getting eaten by the plant. So, in the stage play, Seymour's fate is fitting. In the film, it's not fitting at all. So, I really do get why test screening audiences really hated the ending. because it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit with the tone because it's not dark enough throughout. So when you get this really dark ending, it's like, what? This doesn't work. This sticks out like a sore thumb. The effects are cool, but this doesn't work. And then the whole thing with Audrey dying and Seymour dying, it just makes things all the more bleak and depressing, and it's just not a satisfying conclusion at all. And that's because the way that the film was written up until that point, it just was ill-fitting to have that kind of ending. And even Frank Oz agrees. Like Frank Oz mentioned that in the stage play, you can have that ending and it's fine because you get the curtain call and you get to see these characters and you get to see them give a bow one last time. You don't get that with a film version. But I don't think that's really the only reason why. Like I said, it doesn't work because of the fact that Seymour is more sympathetic when it comes to the way he's written, and also the way that Rick Moranis plays the character. And it's just not really something that fits too well when it comes to the overall tone of the story. So that's why I prefer the theatrical cut. And I will always prefer the theatrical version of Little Shop of Horrors over the director's cut. But I'm really glad that it exists so we can see the effects and everything and all of their wild and wonderful glory. So I love this script for the most part. And I also really love this cast. I mean, Rick Moranis as Seymour, this is honestly some of his best work as an actor. He just nails every aspect of this character. He does a good job with the physical comedy bits early on and throughout. He does a great job really portraying Seymour as this sympathetic everyman, this guy who is really the type of character and personality that you feel for, that you ultimately root for. You want him to get the girl. You want him to live in the end. You want him to stop the killer plant from outer space. And vocally, he's fine. He's not a grade A vocalist, but I think he makes it work because of his quirkiness and his own personality and charm that he brings to the role. And I think him and Ellen Greene just have some really good chemistry when it comes to their scenes together. And he has great chemistry with the plant too. And it also helps that he's a very talented comedian. So he's really able to really hone in on those elements and those aspects of the role as well. Ellen Greene was excellent as Audrey. Uh, she was Audrey in the off-Broadway play. And I know the producers in the studio, they were trying to get a bigger star. They tried to get Cyndi Lauper to do it, but she couldn't do it because of scheduling issues, because she was, doing promotion for her album and everything. And Madonna was another name that was thrown out there, but she ultimately didn't get involved. Barbara Streisand was rumored, but I think that's just a rumor. I can't think of anybody else playing Audrey other than Ellen Greene. Like, she already played this character on off Broadway for many, many years. So this was like a second skin for her. And she was able to just step into it and just bring this character to life in a way that honestly I don't think anyone else could. Um, Her unique style of vocalization is just so good. It's just so powerful and poignant in its own way. And she's underrated too when it comes to her comedic abilities. And she just did a good job playing this sweet natured character who you really also rooted for. You wanted the best for her too. And that song, Somewhere That's Green, that gives me chills every time that I listen to it and see that scene. And it's not because, oh, I can really relate to the lyrics and everything, or the dream that she has. It's because of the strength of the vocals and the overall performance by Ellen Greene. And I will give the original intended ending this. There's a really great extra bit of acting by Greene when it comes to the scene when her character dies and sings Somewhere That's Green Again. When she's like, "Hey, feed me to the plant so I can bloom and grow and always be with you." Um, so yeah, I love that performance by Ellen Greene. It's so good. It's so great. The rest of the cast is fine too. I mean, Vincent Gardenia as Mr. Mushnick did a good job playing the stingy owner of the flower shop. Steve Martin, he was just so much fun as the sadistic nitrous oxide addicted dentist. Levi Stubbs as the voice of Audrey II, amazing. Like the vocals, the personality, just the boisterousness, the cockiness, just just a really iconic and legendary and memorable villain, if you ask me. Because of the fact that Levi Stubbs just brought so much to that plant, so much to that puppet. The puppet itself already had a lot of personality, but Levi Stubbs just added even more. And I think the actresses who played the Greek chorus did some good work too. Tashina Arnold, Michelle Weeks, Tisha Campbell, Jim Belushi, the fun cameo as Patrick Martin. Paul Dooley did a good job too in the original ending as the same character. John Candy. It was a lot of fun to see John Candy. I think initially they asked him to play the Mr. Mushnick character, but he declined, which is why he took the Wink Wilkinson role. Bill Murray as the masochist who visits Orin and just loves the pain. Definitely one of the more memorable cameo appearances that Bill Murray has had in his career. So yeah, really good cast. Love the cast. The cinematography by Robert Painter paints a really nice picture for this film. The editing by John Jimson is also excellent in its own way. Really fits the overall tone and the vibe of the movie well. And the effects by Lyle Conway and everybody involved with creating the puppets and the makeup effects for Audrey II were just amazing and genuinely awesome. And the music by Miles Goodman, who did a little bit of the score, and Alan Menken, who I think he worked on the musical as well. Um, Absolutely astonishing, amazing, great, wonderful work. I love these songs. They're catchy, they're memorable, and they're iconic in their own way. And it's an example of a movie where every bit of that massive budget is on the screen. When it comes to the effects, when it comes to the sets, the production design, the art direction, and everything in between. So yeah, this film is just a really a great movie. I love this film. And I really don't know what else to say about it except thanks for watching my review of Little Shop of Horrors. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.